I don't know who's on the phone. All right, so are we all good now, or as good as we're going to be? I'm getting a report that my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully I won't cut out. But let's call this meeting to order at 1:06. This hybrid meeting of the Infrastructure Committee on June 22nd. First item of business is approved minutes. Unfortunately, I neglected to send them out, so we'll have to approve our last month's minutes next month. Next item on the agenda is discussion with Parks and Rec. So Mary Kay Hamburger is here from the Parks and Recreation Board to talk about various issues that have come up in their committee and that we've asked them to look at. So thanks for coming, Mary Kay.
Sure, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I could join. And I'm so glad to see that you can get back in the Borough Hall again, which is great. Yeah, I don't know if you have questions specifically, but I'm joining. My goal is to kind of square away or refresh folks' memory as to what the Rec Board's final recommendation was for the KCBA drawings for Narberth Park, because together the board has, I know there's been some confusion and some that were not on the record from the last infrastructure meeting. So we've come up with the drawing that we did agree upon as a board, as a full board for Narberth Park. And if I can provide context to that, I would like to share that with you. And then we did have a sit-down meeting. It wasn't with the full Rec Board. Melissa O'Connor and Ed Harmon and a couple other folks did sit down with KCBA while they were still working on this project. And KCBA had a list of their recommendations in addition to the drawings. And we, led by Melissa, went through and item by item, we ticked off what our response was. So it's been a little while since this has occurred, but the composition of the Rec Board is not changed other than, yourself, Fred, and JP coming along. But, we are still in agreement with the drawing that I have and what I have to present. And then secondly, if time allows, I know that you were requesting suggestions for our capital projects or projects that are over a year in duration or over 2,500, I think the amount was. And we did have a couple of items to, not to get into detail with, but to share with you that we prioritize, especially for Narberth Park. We never did come to, just to get Sabine kind of spoken for. I'm sure the other members, if there's anybody else on the call that can correct me if I'm wrong, we never finalized we never came up with a final agreed upon version with KCBA on Sabine Park adjustments. So they did give us drawings. We did have one meeting with them about Sabine Park, and we have a list of proposed park improvements for Sabine, but we never kind of gathered back and put that together with KCBA and put that into a drawing, if that makes sense.
Okay, so why don't you walk us through the ideas for Narberth Park, and I don't know if we can, Samantha, if you can share screen with her, or make her a co-host so she can post her, so she can screen share.
Oh, very good. Here we go. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the version of Narberth Park, the final version that we decided on. Again, it was some time ago, but pre-pandemic, but have not changed our view. It says addition of a walkway, but that is actually not reflective of this drawing. We do not want a walkway. We do not suggest having a walkway. And those were in the drawings that KCBA, I think, left the borough with. But that's not, that's what we were speaking up about. That's not what we agreed upon as a rec board. This is the best rendering to speak to what the rec board was wanting. One thing that I'm not quite sure of that we have ever came to, or I know we've discussed it, but and I want to do diligence, but the scoreboard, there was some talk about moving it, taking it down. We didn't really focus too much on what a plan was for that. We were concerned about it being, I'm a little fuzzy on what the scoreboard recommendation was, but other than that, we like the little field where it is. We didn't feel like the walkway, that there was enough room. We were concerned about, and this is very broad, we've been talking about it for a while, what kind of asphalt we would use, and primarily concerned about safety and proximity to the larger baseball field, as well as Windsor Ave and Haverford Ave. We just didn't feel like the park that was a good place for a pedestrian path. As far as a major project, obviously, was covered in great length in your last meeting, is the pickleball court conversion, which of course we would like to see 2 tennis courts remain, and the other half be dedicated to, 1 tennis court can fit 2 pickleball courts. So we would like to see them converted to pickleball and relined, at least for half. Basketball remains as is. The bathrooms, we advocate for them to be redone or updated. And that no movement on the playground equipment. And yeah, so fixing the bathroom, updating the lights. There was mention of a need for a new backstop to the smaller field. I've been by there. It looks like that might actually be there now since our last meeting. But correct me if I'm wrong. But a backstop to the Little League field, and then it has been brought to our attention that the new baseball netting. It was not part of this drawing. I'm going off subject, so feel free to rein me back in. I apologize. That the baseball netting has a tear in it on the third base side. I've not actually viewed this myself. But the board, Jim McNulty, suggested that we talk to the folks that put the netting in. I think his name is Richard Lentz, and that he would know what we were talking about with the tear or something is not secure with the pole on the third baseline. Football field stays where it is, and the smaller basketball court. So I hope we did have a second drawing that we added that KCBA added for us to account for the floodplain, which is of course a consideration.
All right, sorry, Samantha, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question before we move on here. What are those little what are the little brownish dots near the one side of the football field? There's 5 of them.
These?
Yeah.
That's the smaller field, the junior, yeah.
So yeah, it doubles as part of the football field. Just double duty.
It's in a good spot here. We have 2 board members that are really, 3 that are really attentive to baseball and really know follow the leagues and everything. And that this was the safest placement of the little field to maximize scheduling and also safety, of course.
All right. So to summarize, sorry, I got a little, you cut out a little bit. My connection is a little
Oh, I'm
unstable.
sorry.
You're asking, your suggestions are the conversion to pickleball, an upgrade to the bathroom. I didn't hear some sort of change to the lights. What is it that you're?
Yeah, I have, and I'll be honest, I have lights, improved lighting from Arbor Park in my notes. A new backstop for the Little League field, and then of course, convert the 2 tennis courts to pickleball.
Okay. So I had thought that, people had been requesting that the scoreboard be removed, and I heard that for a while, but then I saw it in use the other day. I walked by and they were using it for a bit. I thought it was dead, but I saw it in action. So
I want to do diligence. Maybe, somebody has a better recollection than me. I honestly, I forgot where we left. I'm not remembering what we left off. I don't.
Okay. Because we have a project that's going to be working right in the area of the scoreboard. So potentially we could remove it like real soon now.
I think
I don't want to do that if people, we need to make sure that is the will of the community before we actually.
Right. As a record, I think we're pretty ambivalent about, then there's a reason why I'm not remembering. I think we're pretty ambivalent about the scoreboard. It's what, keep it, don't keep it. It's okay.
All right. Do committee members have any questions about these ideas?
I would like to share with you, and send it whatever format
I don't see on my screen.
You suggest to share with you the response to each item. Let me, if you don't mind, let me I can just show you this list that we have. It should be on screen too. Can you see that? Oh wait, no, sorry. This KCB architects document, I don't know if that made it into the final report that KCBA left you with. These were their recommendations, and basically we have just our one-line responses to each thing as a rec board. So, and that came out of a meeting, that NAA had with Ed Harmon and KCBA before the pause in the project. So I can share those with you if that helps.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to speak out of turn here. I wasn't sure how Fred's Councilmember Bush's internet connection was doing. I would recommend maybe, Mary Kay, if the group hasn't seen this before, if you could distribute it to the group, and that way they can review it and have a intelligent conversation about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now, everybody? I can't. Okay, I apologize. Things are coming in and out. Hopefully it'll stable for the time being. So, okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of items. We are not going to be able to, really provide much of a response to that at the moment.
There's that, and then there's of course the just wanted to bring it back to the courtesy signage that I know has been about. We really want to do that for our partners that use the field, and it was talked about a lot in the last meeting, so I think I know you're familiar with it. But they would be about $60 for 8 to 10. We were proposing, I think, yes.
I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I'm having trouble following.
The discussion, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe it's hard for us to hear. Maybe the list could be shared, and then we could.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we've moved away from that list temporarily to a discussion of the signs. Is that where we are, Mary Kay? Is that that's what you're talking about now?
That was just my last thing. Yeah, that,
Yeah.
you know, that's a part of our recommendation too.
All right.
I know it's been discussed. I don't want to belabor the point.
Okay, so let's get that the KCBA list and your responses to it. Send those to us, and so we have them to to discuss internally. And let's talk about. So let's move on to talking about signs. So I think in terms of immediate things, we need to figure out whether there is the will to take out the scoreboard, because that is potentially a very soon item. So at this point, I'm tempted just to say, leave it alone. But let's make sure that let's get that recommendation from Rec Board about that. So moving on to signs. So right now we have a very limited sign or a limited set of rules for the park. There, you can't bring your dogs in, and I think there's a closing time for the park, and that's it, basically. So we're limited in what we can put on signs. And I think that Rec Board had made a number of suggestions for rules changes for the park that we could then update an ordinance. Michelle, I don't know if you're talking. I can't hear you.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So we had passed along to Rec Board. Rec Board like 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago was working on a list of recommended rules changes, and I passed those along to Krista and you to see if those were still what you wanted. I don't know if you've had a further discussion on.
Oh yeah, no, we definitely they still apply. Well, I don't even think there is a particular item. It's just the folks in the groups that use the field and try to maintain the field just keep coming back to the same things. And we were, like bikes, really tearing up the field, for example. We think that maybe having some kind of, hey, don't ride it, and it's not just bikes. It's we had a whole list. Don't ride your bike on the field would be, enough. We wouldn't have to back it up with an ordinance that, there would be no fine levied for doing that. It would just be like, hey, don't do it. It damages the field. It's kind of like, just a community standard rather than, a full enforceable thing. So I think we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole a bit with the signage. It's, I see it in other places. I understand the wanting to back it up with enforcement, but even having the hours of the field posted or it's just something we really, really want. We have for, we've had groups ask that of us, NAA, and they've been great partners to the borough. And the board and myself really very much want to see this come to fruition.
All right, I see some folks have some questions. So Samantha?
Sure. So Mary Kay, if I may, for the benefit of the group here, before we get too far into discussion, unfortunately, really the way that the borough kind of has to do this is there has to be an ordinance. We really can't put up signs that don't have an ordinance to back them up. I totally understand what you're saying about, having to add another step onto the process, but I guess I would maybe try and reassure you and the members of the committee, if they're open to this, that getting an ordinance together to do, park regulations is not a very, arduous task. And I would suggest that the committee members are open to it, that if you sent me the list of rules that you want on a sign, then myself and the borough solicitor could present an ordinance at the next infrastructure committee meeting for this group to review, and then when they feel it's ready, send over to borough council.
Okay.
That works for the committee?
Yeah, we
can. That's exactly what we talked about when we had our meeting several months ago, where Maureen and I think Krista were there. I don't remember exactly when it was, the date. And so I think that exactly tracks what we talked about, that it would make the most sense to make sure that our park use policies are up to date, reflected in the ordinance, so that we can put them all on the top.
Yeah, so the
Yeah, I don't, I must understand that part of it. I wasn't in attendance and we have not met since then, but we are meeting in July. So, yeah, I can definitely do that.
yeah, I
It
just wanted
would
to
be very
confirm that, I mean, since there
strategic.
was an extant list of
Then we
recommendations.
have a path forward, you know, to kind of tie it up after, you know, and make a choice that makes the most sense, I think.
Sure. So our infrastructure meeting will be after your rec board meeting. So just get
Yeah,
your,
and I
you know,
can,
once
you
again,
know, for
go through
continuity,
that list of recommendations, send it to us. And we'll...
Yeah, and for continuity, I can, you know, try to be here again for, you know, be the representative here again, and you know, if that's helpful, you know, and yeah, that can be our charge. I'll let, you know, I'll let the group know. We were also, just while I don't want to usurp too much time, I know I've been talking, but just for the day to day, I know that, you know, everybody's so busy and coming back from the pandemic, but so for like the smaller things that we used to just alert Public Works to, with whom do we kind of liaise now from Public Works without sending anybody into the weeds, but like, hey, a lockney in the park is falling off or something like that, just the community plan. What's the best path for that? I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's happened, but it was we were communicating with Ed pretty frequently, so where to go with that?
So I believe those should go to Fran Dixon right now. The
Okay, yeah, that's
maintenance
what
requests.
I would have thought, but
Samantha wants to
great, thank you.
chime in. Okay.
I know, that's exactly.
Yeah, he's up.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I would have said, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, it's Michelle.
Um,
What we have here, oh, sorry. So, I can't see you, but I'm not sure if I'm speaking. I just want to make sure before you get away, I want to ask you a question, but
Sure.
I want to press the thread after we sort of wrap this up. Like, unrelated question about this.
Okay. So I think I only have one more kind of rec board related issue to bring up, which is this is embarrassing. The last issue was the potential skate equipment donation. So I think where we've left it right now, or we left it before the transition in managers, was that we're going to send an inspector out to look at the proposed, look at the skating equipment, check its condition, and sort of come back to us with a sense of what it would, you know, whether it's in good condition and what it might cost for us to transport and install. So I know Rec Board hasn't really come up with a group recommendation on this. I just saw recently that Friends of Sabine Park had started up a GoFundMe to bring in, which I was not aware of. So I know that you know, Mary Kay, you and Krista are both with Friends of Sabine Park as well, right?
Fred, if you've turned off your video, I think
I'm
the
sorry,
audio would be better.
My audio is breaking up.
Could you turn off your
I
video?
don't know anything more.
Oh, that's
about
a good
that,
idea.
Fred.
Why don't
The last that we had spoken as a board is we were struggling with where we would want to put the equipment.
What was the funding for? I'm sorry, we all missed it here in the room.
Okay, sorry. So I was talking about the skating equipment. I was saying that you know, I don't think Rec Board has given an official recommendation. I know Friends of Sabine Park put up a GoFundMe to bring in skating equipment to Sabine Park. They did this last year. Sorry if that didn't come through. I just found this recently. So it sounds like they really want skate stuff in Sabine. Anyway, I'm just leaving it open for Mary Kay to jump in with.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know about that. The latter part with the, but we were struggling as a board with where we would put the equipment. And it sounded like, in terms of space, it sounded like Sabine Park had, was a good spot, but there would need to be a lot of work because the equipment is permanent. And rather, it's very large. It would need to be locked. It would need to be that so many things would need to happen to preclude us accepting this. And although it's a wonderful offer, so many things would preclude us bringing it here that we just don't know where we would put it. So we're kind of stuck there. It's a wish list.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mary Kay. So Rob, I didn't really hear you if you were.
I was just saying how expensive a donation can be.
All right. So I think it's with us. The ball's in our court now. So we can.
Yeah, I don't have much to add with the skating. Right. I'm sorry.
So are we? Are we good with the idea of sending an inspector out just to check it out, get a better sense of it, get a better sense of what it would cost to install?
Yeah, I would love that. Well, it's not me, but.
Yeah. So what's the sense of the committee here? And Samantha, if you want to jump in and say, this is a terrible idea, don't do anything. I think inspecting is fairly low stakes. So.
No, if the committee is fine with it, I'm fine with that.
What is the cost? Do we know?
I think the cost of the inspection was maybe $200. I'm not sure if I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a guess.
To pursue, but I think it's also. Here's a scenario. Some of the equipment might be in fine shape, some of it might not be. I think it would be helpful to give the inspector a sense of, if we were to take this equipment, we can't take it all. I mean, it's an enormous amount. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. Huge amount of stuff just stuck in a corner. We probably wouldn't take it all anyway. It might actually be helpful in a sense. If we were to consider this, how big of an area would we consider dedicating to it, and which area really? I mean, I just say honestly, I can't imagine leaving open and not blocked during the off hours. I mean, during the evening, at night. I mean, they're both in residential areas, and if you left it open and people are skateboarding at midnight, I mean, it's going to be not only a liability, it's going to be a disturbance to the neighborhood. So I think it would need to be done under control. The only place where we really have fence that could be locked is in the tennis court area. Just so happens that also happens to be paved and paved in a way that nobody would care a whole lot about skateboards on it. So it's kind of like the story almost writes itself, that instead of finishing the tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts, we really dedicate that area to an experiment, depending on liability insurance and, the state of the equipment, because it already has a fence that can be locked. But we sort of dedicate that to an experiment to see what making skateboarding available in areas would be like. Would that bring out how much of our community would that serve, and is it worth keeping permanently and expanding? But it's hard to me to see this moving forward any other way, and it probably couldn't fit more than 3 or 4 pieces of equipment in an area. That would be something like, I feel like even before you ask an inspector to look at it, you might want to say, are there a handful of pieces of equipment in great shape that we could put in this area that would make sense? Because if it's like, yeah, there's some equipment in great shape, but as it turns out, it's usually working the area that we have available. That's, I guess.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We could try to plot out an area of Sabine where it might go and give them a couple potential sizes to consider.
Unless you're prepared to install a chain link fence. A non-buildable chain link.
I agree. I think that it would probably be cheaper and simpler to put it into the tennis court area, but there's an established group that already uses the tennis court area, whereas the parking lot is still pretty empty. So I think those are both reasonable. I think at this point we should keep our options open, is what I'm saying. Samantha?
Yeah, maybe I was going to suggest, having seen Mary Kay here today and having had a chance to meet Krista, It might be worthwhile for the Parks and Rec Committee, since they'll meet before our next meeting, to talk as well about where a skate park might go. And then maybe in parallel with that, I can talk to the borough's liability insurer about what sort of, impact that would have on our liability insurance. And then again, I don't know if you all, when you would want to do the inspection, whether it's before or after we get the location. But it sounds like those are the three things that need to be figured out. What would be the impact to the borough's liability, which I can go ahead. I mean, that's just a simple phone call. That's not going to cost us anything. And then to figure out where it's going to go, which maybe Parks and Rec could help us figure out. And then this question of what condition the equipment's actually in.
I think the inspection would be informative. So I think it would be fairly low cost and it would help us with our other discussions. So I think we can proceed with that, even though we don't have the other planks in place. But
Yeah, I think
Michelle, I agree with you. I agree with your suggestion that we should identify. We should say we're interested in a subset, a fairly small subset that might fill this space, or we can. I mean, we might be able to come up with 2 spaces.
be in the form of like an inventory, that it's not just a global conclusion about everything, but that we,
Yeah.
pay what's required to get an inventory of the equipment, it's just a brief description and condition of each piece. I think that would probably, we should just make sure that that's the inspection we're asking for.
Right.
And then maybe it may have been assumed anyway, I just.
No, yeah, exactly. You never know.
All right, Rob, do you have any comments? Are you good? Okay. So I think we've got a plan here. Okay, that's it for what I had for Mary Kay. So Michelle, did you have another question for her?
So that was my question, so thank you.
That was your question. Okay,
I
great.
didn't stop talking skateboarding, so thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right, Mary Kay, anything else you want to add, or
No,
otherwise
thank
we'll
you
move
very
on?
much for having me. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thanks. And yeah, so I may be able to attend. Hopefully, my internet connection will be better, but I'll try to attend the rec board meeting as well. As the
Yeah, we're going to meet in person, so
council
I'm
representative.
happy about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in person, so I'll over the phone or
We'll work out a connection.
virtually. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Mary Kay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
Okay.
Bye. You're welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a potential action item, a county transportation grant. So Samantha, take it away.
Sure. So my thanks to actually the borough engineer, Eric, who brought this grant to my attention, and I'm going to have help me speak to it as well. So basically the county has a grant program that to allow us to fund some potential projects we've been talking about doing, and Eric and I have had a chance to talk about what a few of those might be, and we wanted to come to infrastructure today to talk about the parameters of the grant and what some possible projects to pursue could be, come to a consensus on whether we want to pursue the grant, and if so, I can work on writing a grant application, maybe with some help from a few other folks in the community, and get some the borough council to take a look at its July business meeting in time for the July 30th deadline for the grant. So Eric, maybe you could speak a little bit. Yeah. So in Eric and mine's defense, the county sent the notice out about the grant. I think June 1st they told us.
Right.
No, I'm incredibly impressed that you're like, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to do this.
that's pretty much how it goes with all the grants. They basically say like, here's a grant, it's open now, it's due next month. Like I have another grant I'm working on from somewhere else, due this Friday, and we just started last week. So it's just the nature of the grant.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the importance as well. Finance and administration have started talking about a grant strategy for the borough, and it speaks to the importance of already kind of having your projects in mind. They don't want people just sitting around saying, like, oh, what could, like the projects Eric is going to talk about are ones the borough is already familiar with. It's not Eric and I sat around like, oh, let's make up a project. So,
Right.
so Eric, if you can maybe speak to the matching requirements as well as the general parameters of the grant and the projects you and I talked about for it.
Yeah, so what the grant is, the county, County Transportation Grant Program, which is basically that $5 surcharge that they started adding to your registration, vehicle registration. So that money is earmarked directly for road-related infrastructure, roads, bridges, drainage, traffic calming, those type of items. So, and down, kind of the focus, the type of projects that they're looking at is construction, reconstruction, maintenance of roads, bridges, streets, culverts, drainage structures that are owned either by the county or municipality, traffic signals, lane and crosswalk pavement markings, ADA ramp, curb ramps, and crossings. That would be kind of the applicable ones. For the borough, the local match is 20% for the program, so it's 8% funded, 20% match. And I think they have, I think there's about $1 million worth of funding available for this year. So they don't put a maximum grant of ask, but assuming there's $1 million spread across the county, you know, you're probably talking $100,000-ish of grant money. That's probably where you're looking. So, and just they have some other focuses are implementation of Bike Monco connection, or enhancing of other infrastructure, innovative approaches to traffic calming, safety, operations, and stormwater management. So even of what's available to be funded, that's kind of what they're focusing on. So that in mind, we're kind of thinking through some ideas. One is, you know, ADA ramps, pedestrian crossings are always a low-hanging fruit. You know, we did a few of them in connection with Dudley Avenue. There's always the opportunity to get more of that. Another one with the emphasis on stormwater and traffic calming is we do have the stormwater pump outs and other infrastructure that we were considering as part of our PRP. It's in the roadway. It's connected to stormwater management. And you can also use them to the effect of traffic calming because they are located on the road. A road diet, restricting a lane is a way of traffic calming. So those are the two kind of clear options, I think, that could go forward. The other one that it may require a little talking to them just to see if it could be part of this grant funding, but it is a project that we're going to have to consider in the future anyway. That's the dead end of Elmwood, the pedestrian bridge. So that bridge right now, it has the gabion wall baskets, the stones and the cages, and the wood bridge going across it. The gabion walls are coming to the end of their life.
Yeah.
If you look at them, you'll see some of the stones missing. Pedestrian bridge is built on the gabion wall. So it's all integrated, and the bridge itself is wood, starting to rot out.
Oh, yeah.
I think they put plywood across the top of it to extend its life. But that is a project that will have to be done. And that's going to involve replacing the walls, replacing the pedestrian bridge, and it's not a cheap undertaking. That's you're north of $150,000 for that project. So I was toying with the idea. It's in the right of way. It's stormwater infrastructure, but we may have to check with the administrator to see if that was an eligible type project. But
The only problem is, again, in terms of getting it ready in time, because we've got this pending development there, but the developer may be in a position
yeah, so that
to move the project along partly by contributing to that improvement, so.
and that you're right. So as part of that project, we are angling to have them assist us with that. Now, the scope of the work that needs to be done is pretty substantial. Maybe we're looking for some help. We're looking for any committed help in some way. That's still to be play out how that would play out. And then the only other project I brought up was our Haverford storm sewer, which is currently we're going to be going into construction and bidding on that one soon. That one may be too far down the road. I'm not sure. There's usually limits on like when the expense can be made relative to that, but that one might be too late. But again, we could check. So And all of the above, it's probably a good idea to talk to the administrator anyway, just to make sure I get the buy-in.
So
So what
So,
is
do you-
the,
anybody have any ideas on that or anything
I have
else?
a question for you,
Yeah.
if it's okay, about the idea, if stormwater bump outs were a project to propose,
Uh-huh.
what, your point of view, like what areas or would you propose to do that, and is it possible to do that design work in this timeframe? Do we have enough of a sense of where we want to use them and how we will use them effectively? Have a plan.
Right, so where they have been, the idea of where is essentially along the roads running north-south in the borough. So right now, we know we have our largest largest concentration of stormwater we have that's overwhelming our storm sewer, is just north of Windsor. So the roads, and you position them where we already have, where there is in fact a storm damage and where there's some flooding, right? And some access to stormwater infrastructure to be able to tap into.
Do you put them at the intersections where Windsor is, or do you put them up straight?
We can put them farther up. Generally, they're up. The theory is to put them kind of where the stormwater infrastructure, not far from the infrastructure. Because the intent is to capture particulate and sediment in the water before it enters the.
Yeah, I mean, there was if they were used for traffic calming, well.
Right.
I mean, North Upper Avenue has been
Right.
downhill.
Right.
There were a few years ago, we did a lot.
Right.
Something, so I mean, there's a history there that has to jump. A safety need, I mean, thinking about a grant and the stormwater area too. We're thinking about it, but that's also been mentioned for bicycle. Okay, that's why I wonder in terms of planning like a complete street, which first the chicken or the egg, I mean, if you put bump outs in, then they dramatically affect our ability
Right.
to use it for protected bike, depending on where.
Right. So
So what are we in the best position, I guess, to get moving forward?
So where you're talking about, is that a place that has on-street parking now?
Number Avenue? Yeah, it has some, I don't remember.
So it's effectively, the size of these bump outs is effectively like a parking space
Okay.
or two parking spaces. So, you're not gonna, I wouldn't say put them somewhere where there's not parking,
Okay,
that you're gonna then create a problem with trying to use that road in some other way.
got it. Okay, that makes sense, should be taking it.
So you already, the place where the car would already be sitting, it would bump out more.
Okay.
You don't want to interfere with parking too much, but that's about the size and type of locations that we're. I think the construction time frame is like 24 to 36 months, once you had a grant. So, you need to find details. There's still time to work out. So,
I mean, I assume you wouldn't have put forward any of these programs, sessions if you did, conceivably do from an engineering design point of view by the time.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as go ahead, Fred.
sorry, so Michelle, if you could either speak louder or speak toward the mic, because I have trouble. I think it's not just my connection. I think it's
I'm
just
sorry,
not coming
no,
through.
I'm sure,
Yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward for everybody.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. And then I saw that Rob had his hand up too.
Selfish, and I put the microphone like next to me, so I just tried to push it towards Michelle.
Yeah. In our stormwater management plan, did we have like a ranked list of, I don't know, where we would locate?
There was not a specific location. There was a certain number of locations that lead us to the sediment reduction calculation, but the exact location at that level of design, the exact location is not to be there.
Okay.
All right. So my sense was that there's a substantial amount of design work to be done on these, and like the total cost for all of the ones we had proposed is significantly more than 100,000. So this would just be sort of a test, or this would be a few of them that we would install as sort of proof of concept? Is that the vision here, or?
Well, so it's, it's one of those things, if you put in for the grant, you're gonna get 80% free money for a project that you already are going to do. So even if, and it's one of those things, like, there's no cap on the amount that you can ask for, but in reality, if there's only so much funding across the county, they're gonna spread it a little bit more. So let's say you apply for $100,000, get $120,000 worth of work for your $20,000 match. So it's 80-20, so $120,000 project, they could fund $100,000.
Well, it would kind of work that way. It says if we got $100,000, if the total project was $100,000, the county would pay 80 and we would pay 20.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it always, yeah. So
Close enough, yeah.
there's not, you get, you're correct, we would spend more money ultimately doing this whole project, but, even if we got $100,000 of free grant money, put out $150,000 contract,
Yeah.
you're gonna pay significantly less for that work.
I mean, it sounds, so I think we all like that idea in particular. The question is whether we can get that together in time. I mean, the ADA ramp sounds like a backup plan, that if we can't find anything else, well, we'll submit some ADA ramps, because that's not a lot of planning work. But do we think we can do that? We can get this proposal done. It's more ambitious, right? The bump outs. It's not
Right,
something
I mean,
we've done.
at this point, it's writing the grant application, which is, Samantha, it's writing a good descriptions of what you want to do, what the benefit's going to be, why you're worthy of the grant funding. And then as far as like its design, I mean, at this point, it's really pictorial. We want to say, we want to do this in like this, and this location. And ultimately, if it's this block or that block, when we actually go to construct it, that usually it's not an issue. So it's more of a writing exercise at this point of why the money would be beneficial.
Do you have a recommendation as to what possible projects that you tested? Do you see them as all equal, or do you think there are reasons to prefer one over the other?
Well, I think where I think the money would be very beneficial is a dead end in Elmwood, but I think we need to, that needs a conversation with the grant administrator. But the bump outs are always, that's stormwater infrastructure, and that's traffic calming.
I mean, the bump outs sound like they hit all of their recommendations, right? It's traffic calming, it's green infrastructure, it's stormwater, which are all things they were particularly asking for. So
It's in support of a plan that you have already, that you have, your PRP plan, as part of your goals of the borough, the green infrastructure and all that. So that's all, at this point, if you're applying for the grant, that's all the language and everything you're bringing up of why this fits in with everything you've done, why you're headed.
Well, I'm gonna suggest that we proceed with that then. That seems to be, I mean, Rob, Michelle, I see nods.
Yeah,
General nods?
yeah.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that would be, could do, a pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would be permanent, but it would tell us if we're gonna do others,
And it sounds like you have a new borough manager who has some experience writing grants, so.
Yes, we do.
And honestly, it's not just a pilot, I mean, that intersection, what?
Right.
It would make an immediate,
Right.
improvement.
Yeah, in lots of ways.
Okay. All right, well, we can go ahead, we can get that going then.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Next is updates on borough projects. So Samantha, once again.
Yeah, I feel much better about talking about that this month as opposed to last month when this meeting was like on my second day working here. I will note as well, I am supposed to be meeting someone at 2, so I might just have to duck out for just a second to let that person in the building, when we get right at 2 o'clock. But anyway, the electric vehicle chargers. So I found out that the borough had not yet made the submission to PICO to get our rebate vouchers. So I took care of all the paperwork for that, sent that off to, not PICO. We got the money from PICO, from DEP. So I turned in the paperwork to DEP so we can get that money. I had a meeting with the company that is responsible for actually, operating the electric vehicle chargers. They're supposed to be sending me paperwork this week to officially activate them. So that should be done very soon. Public Works and the police department are working on getting signage for the chargers to note that, per the borough's ordinance, that only people, actually charging should be parked at them. So I think in the near future, it's all going to be done. As soon as they're actually operational, I would like to talk to this committee about scheduling a ribbon cutting event. That's an idea. To be fair, that wasn't my idea. There are folks on this committee who came up with that idea. And I know a lot of folks in the community would really be interested in attending the ribbon cutting, like the company that is maintaining the chargers, our state elected officials would like to be there for it. So, but I just want to make sure you can actually plug a car into it.
Right, yes, thank you for checking
that. So, maybe as soon as I have confirmation that they're actually working, maybe then I can reach out to you all about scheduling that, a ribbon cutting event.
Right.
Yeah, sounds great.
Are we putting a price on charging? Are we charging for charging?
That's one of the things I have to work out with the company. So, I mean, if this committee has any recommendations on what the charge should be, I'm open to that. They recommended $1 per hour, to discourage people from just like leaving their cars there for hours and hours on end. Like some places do a flat charge. They recommended against that. They recommended $1 per hour. And they would get 15% of that, and then the borough would get the other 85% to cover, the cost of the electricity that we're going to get from PICO.
Yeah, I mean, it seems reasonable. I know it's changeable with the software.
Yeah.
So as a council, we can all figure out if we want to adjust the price at a later point.
Sure.
But I think I would like to err on the side of a lower price to incentivize people to use it and make the community aware that the resource is
It's
here.
level 2 charging, right?
Right, it's not a
In an hour, you can,
50 miles maybe.
I would think even
I
more.
would encourage you to move your car after a few hours.
Yeah.
Right,
It seems like it seems like a reasonably good, like a good recommendation, a good place to start. So
yeah, I
just
like
wanna
that
make sure
too.
we have some.
Yeah, I'd just defer to the company's recommendation here. I don't have any other personal knowledge. So.
But, and then I'm actually going to let Eric, or the borough engineer, speak to the Dudley Ave and Haverford project. And I'm going to go downstairs and let my 2 o'clock in, and then I'll be right back here.
Okay.
All right, yes, I guess the next item, Dudley Avenue paving, the project is done. We were very fortunate and had a very good contractor. He came in, put the ramps in, paved the road. I just drove down it on the way to this meeting, and it looks great. So that panned out well, and we're done.
Great.
So, unless anybody has any questions, it was pretty simple. The next item, which is the Haverford Avenue Storm Sewer. I think we talked about it a little bit at the council meeting. I don't really have anything else to add. I know we had the discussion, we're talking about the scoreboard. So as of right now, I have it in the contract as an ad alternate to demo the scoreboard. I can leave it in there and continue forth that way, unless you guys have a different thought, as in not including it.
So I'm confused. So, Fred, you had said that the other day you saw the scoreboard being used. Do I remember that you said that?
Yeah, I saw a baseball team using it. So, I mean, right now the ad alternate doesn't commit us to anything. It doesn't really, I mean, it just gives us the option. So
I remember.
might as well leave it in there and we'll sort out whether or not this is a good idea. But
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're not going to end up using it. So.
Remember this? That spent a ton of time trying to fix that scoreboard. Like, he
Okay.
was on the phone with the company that makes it, this old, like, he turned it into, like, he was like obsessed with it for a while. He was like tinkering with it, he loves to tinker. He was trying everything to get it, and he couldn't get it working. So I'm wondering if maybe it turns on and it does stuff, but it doesn't actually function.
right, so-
It doesn't actually keep score, I'm not sure.
Okay, so I think then here's what we do. The time frame right now for this project is we are going to start advertise the contract next month, so in July, and receiving bids at the beginning of August in time for your consideration at the August council meeting. So at that, we'll include it in there. I have it as the contractor demolishing the building down to like 12 inches below grade and then filling it back in with soil. Get a price. Either at that point you decide, yes, we're demoing it, and we go ahead and do it, and assuming you like the price, or you just leave it and do the rest of the project.
Thank you.
So I don't really have any other updates unless anybody has any questions, but we are proceeding forward with the project.
All right, just to be annoying, I have to say there is one completely busted square sidewalk near Sabine Park that's like a massive tripping hazard. It's nowhere near this current project. Do we throw that into this? Do we just save it for a later project? I mean, it's like completely crumbled is the only reason I'm bringing it up now.
Maybe, sorry, bad habit. I'm so used to other Zoom meetings, having to unmute myself. Yeah, I could ask Fran if that's something that either Rock Public Works could just take care of, or I know we have a company coming on July 2nd to do paving, do some patchwork at 201 Sabine. Maybe that company could take care of it as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea to have one of your contractors do it. If there's still a block or two lingering around when this contractor's in town, it's usually not a big deal to have them do some other work. But in the meantime, if you want to take it, that's probably the best. So, do you have any other questions on that?
Eric, I just want to ask for the Haverford storm drain. When is that construction? When do you imagine that happening, and will it disrupt the traffic? Okay.
So construction would be going on in the fall. Now, as far as disruption, fortunately the road is wide enough because right now you can kind of pass the two cars down it. So for the majority of the work, you should still be able to drive a car around. There will be some work. We're not going to go across Wynwood. The storm sewer on Wynwood is staying. They will install a new inlet on the one side where the stone wall is, and they'll be doing work on the park side. That will have some traffic delays, but not like permanent or long lasting. So that should be manageable.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Last item is the bridge update and the bridge art.
Yeah, you saved that's for last year. So, built an Arbor Bridge. I met with our engineer, Panoni, as well. Well, Eric's here. Sorry, a different engineer from Panoni, who's helping us with that project, as well as with PennDOT. We talked through the exact steps that remain to move the bridge project forward. I don't know how much in detail you want me to get with that at this point, given that it's 2:04. But I do have that list, and we are moving forward on the steps needed for it. The other thing of note with the bridge is there was a piece of debris that fell from the bridge, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before. Thankfully, it didn't cause any issues or anything like that. They did have to briefly stop the trains just to get the track cleared off. I'm talking with Amtrak and with SEPTA about what sort of inspections were done and have been done on the bridge. Out of an abundance of caution, we did have the Narberth Run reroute their route last weekend to not go over the bridge. But from everything I've heard so far, there's been no mention of any concerns about structural integrity or anything like that. But I do know that There is going to be another inspection of the bridge done on August.
We had that netting put in, right? We were
We did
required
not.
to do that. Oh, I thought we were required to do that when we goes to.
The
And
borough,
that never happened?
the borough talked about that, but it was not installed because, the cost of the netting is $113,000, and it's not covered by our, grant with, PennDOT or Amtrak.
Yeah.
So part of what I'm working through is figuring out, getting a better sense of the timing of the bridge as to getting a definitive answer, how far out is this project, to better determine should we pay the cost for the netting or not.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I thought for some reason that we were required to do it and that we had no budget.
I mean,
but obviously,
we could totally pay 5% of that cost if we could somehow make it part of the
Yeah,
coverage.
I did my best with that one. I did my best with that one, and PennDOT said no-go on that one.
Oh, well. Was that before the debris fell? All right. Do you have,
Yeah,
is
it
it,
was after, but what I can do for this committee is I did send, I know the members of this committee, I sent the bullet points to of what needs to happen. What I want to do, as I mentioned in the weekly email the other day, is I'm basically going to take those bullet points and put those on the borough website and put those, in the weekly email. That way the residents of the borough know what's left to do with the bridge and what efforts we're making and what the, timetable to move things forward are.
that's great.
Thank you for that.
It didn't look like there was anything that needed council action on that list, right? This is administrative, and a lot of it is applications waiting for state agencies, right?
On most of it, yeah, there's one item, but council did, kind of talk about that already at its last meeting and executive session. Talk
Yep.
more about it next.
Okay. And then we've got bridge art listed as a point here. I think no, go ahead, Samantha.
I apologize. I think the purpose of that item was just for me to get a better handle as to where that stood. I know there have been, myself and Councilmember Paranopoulos had a brief discussion about it. And so I just wanted, I think for all of our sake, to get a better handle as to where we stood regarding, getting new art done for the bridge as part of the project.
Michelle, do you want to address sort of where we are?
I'm the only person who voted against one.
No. I think,
All right.
sorry, I
Then
think
I'll
there's
do
a
it.
misunderstanding there. No, Michelle is the person who had kind of come to me and had asked what the status of that
Okay.
was. So honestly,
What we were gonna do.
yeah, honestly, Brad or Rob, I was hoping one of you had a sense of where that was at and what needed to happen with it.
Sure. So my sense is that we are waiting to get sort of mock-ups or small scale physical versions of the art that we have funded. There were 3 groups in competition. We have voted them money to produce these small scale art, small scale versions. There was a 4th person who broke off from one of the groups and wanted to submit, and we told them he could submit at his own expense. So my understanding is that we're waiting on their submissions, their physical submissions, and we're going to choose based on what we get then. Does that square with everybody's memory?
Is Todd managing this process though, or was he? Because he's the professional. He does public art installation, he's expert. Have you spoken with him?
I mean, he was
about it
at the meeting when we discussed it, so maybe we should ask him. I'm not totally sure whether he was managing it or whether he was merely advising us on it.
He was kind of doing it. He's the one who really managed the initial outreach to artists. Yeah, it takes to get. Years before we were on council.
Okay, so we should get an update from him.
Yeah, I'll follow up with him about that.
All right. Do we have any other comments from committee members? That's the last item on the agenda, and then we'll go to public comment.
Quick question, just a quick update. Have you heard anything, Samantha, from Keystone? Is it that, or the company that's doing the LED streetlight installation?
Yeah, so it's Keystone Lighting Solutions. Myself and Michelle Carroll had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago. They promised to finish up, like, our project is the one they want to get done next.
Yay.
Yeah, so they have to finish up a couple design things, which I'm going to check in with them tomorrow about, because it should be pretty much ready. And myself and the folks at Keystone are having a little bit of a chat with PennDOT, because PennDOT Liquid Fuels funds are partially, paying for the project. So, yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape to, we're hoping that, before the end of August, the project will be done and the LED lights will be in.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've also talked about what we want to do about lights that are currently out and lights that go out between now and the end of August. So we're dealing with that on a case-by-case basis. We don't want to spend money if we're just going to, trade them out. But they've been talking about they might have some extra LEDs already sitting around that for a one-off here and there they could go ahead and put in.
Thank you.
It's that awkward time in a project between like light bulbs out and you're putting a new 30, one's gonna last for 20 years.
The state is going to those houses.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that sounds like that's it from the committee. So public comment, Carol Marie, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I have a couple questions. What are the park hours?
Here, pull that up off the.
There used to be a sign at Sabine that said park is closed from dusk to dawn, and that disappeared about maybe 4 years ago. Because we'd like to get that replaced. We've been having teenage parties on the weekends at the park, and we had 4 birthday parties last Sunday, which is absolutely so super to see, so many families coming up. But we're not thrilled about the teenagers because the morning after, Friends of Sabine Park is going up and picking up all their trash and their alcohol bottles and what they have up there. So having something, the police have been great. We call John Gallagher and he puts the list on the to come and do rounds at the park, but the kids are still up there. There's also an initiative called Pennsylvania Young Lungs at Play, which is no smoking in parks. And that is not an ordinance, that's a Pennsylvania. And it would be nice if we could get the Young Lungs at Play signs at the park, because it's disgusting having people smoking up at the park. I mean, that's just terrible. So those are 2 things I have to question. Then the other I want to ask a question about is the patching and the repaving up at the parking lot at 201. Is that the entire parking lot which is going to be patched and paved?
So, Carol Marie, I can answer your question about park hours. So the borough ordinances that we have says that people are not to use the parks from 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Are there signs such as that in the borough garage that could be put up?
We could check, but like I said, I think that goes back to that earlier conversation we had about just getting an ordinance done in the near future.
Correct.
Just getting signs up, have all of
That would be good. I didn't know if there was something already on the books that could be a stopgap until that happens, just to get rid of the teenagers at the park at night.
And
Go ahead.
And then the patching question, that I don't know offhand, but I can ask Andy Rubin about that for you, and I can get back to you on that, Carol Marie.
Great, thank you, because there are 8 vehicles that have been permanently, or we could call semi-permanently parked up there. We have a boat, we have a trailer, and we have trucks that are up there that just stay up there. One of them has no license plate on it. One has a expired registration from like 2011. So if will they be removed also? And then can they come back?
That is something I'll have to ask Andy about. I do know in terms of coming back, and I've had a little bit of a chat about this with you and some other folks in the borough. we'll have to see what sort of parking regulations the borough comes up with. I certainly am not a policymaker, but, I think I'll be interested to see what happens with those. And I think it's a concern I've shared with folks around the borough as well.
Great, thanks. And I also wanted to let you know, did you know that there's a sinkhole on Sabine between Essex and Dudley that keeps recurring? Every once in a while, some more asphalt gets poured in there, but doesn't seem to have been, it's been going on for a couple years. And we'd hate to have something big happen if it can be repaired or looked at as it's a little something.
I was not aware of that, so thank you for mentioning it, and me and Eric can take a look and see what's going on.
I can tell you where it is. It's on the south side of the street, and it's the sinkhole. It's not huge, but it does keep recurring, which is a concern. And I just want to put a comment about the art at the bridge. I think a really nice piece of art at the bridge would just be the borough seal, because art is in the eye of the beholder. And
Thank you.
when the art was done on the bridge, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it looks awful. It looks like trash. It looks like graffiti. It looks horrible. So I think just a classic seal would be all that is needed, that would show it's the borough's bridge, and get rid of the art, save the $60,000, and use that for other projects rather than art on the bridge.
All right, thanks, Carol Marie. That's been 5
Thank
minutes
you.
and we're over time. So, all right, thank you, everybody. And thanks for putting up with the hybrid format. Still some growing pains, but I appreciate everybody's patience and forbearance while we're figuring this out. All right, let's adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Fred.